Hey guys, what's happening? So after much anticipation, the time has come for us to get into Jerry Duggan's Godzilla vs. Hulk, which is one of many that are to come, because there's also Godzilla vs. X-Men coming, versus Spider-Man vs. Avengers. There's a few on the way, so you already know it's going to be crazy. So with that said, if you're enjoying these videos, let me know by dropping a like, subscribe if you're new to the channel, and don't forget to hit that bell up top to get all notifications. Alright, so going into this, we're given quite a bit of world building right out the bat, with it starting out with General Ross at Thunderbolt Ranch, which is basically the base for his anti-kaiju task force, who at this point have already taken down a number of kaiju, monsters, and other creatures alike, and they're not shying away from it because they got Fin Fang Foom's skull hanging up right at the entrance. And at this time, Ross and his Thunderbolts believe that they have already killed the Hulk as well, and we'll talk more about that shortly. But also with this taking place in the 70s, this explains a lot of the references as well as the hair and the clothes on the people we'll see, but it also makes this fall in line as far as the time frame of the original Godzilla Avengers crossover from like 1977 or 79. But this one shot really goes on to tell its own story, because when it starts out, General Ross, who's finishing up a talk with the press, which for the most part is Ross saying that him and his men are getting ready to undertake their most dangerous project ever, capturing and pacifying Godzilla. And some of the press, they're not really sure if that was a euphemism or what. And Ross doesn't go any further, he just tells them no more questions and he gets ready to leave. But when he does, he's followed by a journalist, Jackson Giles of the Daily Bugle, Texas, who asked the general if he had any comment for the Americans who think the Hulk is still alive. So Ross lets him come along, and he tells this guy, Thunderbolt Ranch extends down into the ground, almost 80 stories. And there's national secrets, eggheads, and monsters that I hope will never see the light of day. But the Hulk is deader than Elvis. The 1980s are just around the corner, but Thunderbolt Ross is still taking care of business, which from here takes us down under the ranch, where we find Dr. Bruce Banner as well as Dr. Demonicus. And what's interesting about this guy is he originated in the Godzilla comics that Marvel put out in the 70s, where he was mainly known as a villain who made a ton of monsters who Godzilla killed. But before that, he was just known as geneticist Dr. Douglas Beerley, who heavily focused on the relation between radioactivity and mutation. So it's really interesting to see him working with Banner, even though these guys play very different roles here. Because for the most part, Dr. Demonicus is in charge of cleansing these abominations. And when it comes to Bruce, we're also told here that he's been able to keep the Hulk from coming out by way of meditation, which is part of the reason why he's been able to convince General Ross and the others that the Hulk is dead, since Bruce hasn't hulked out in the past few years. But while they're down here, Bruce asks Dr. Demonicus if he believes that this containment will hold Godzilla. And that's where Demonicus tells him, my kaiju incinerator will be more than enough for the so-called king of monsters. Just be sure you and Ross do your parts. And we get a preview of this plan when we head back over to General Ross and Jackson Giles, who for a second just brushes over the fact that Ross has also killed Surtur, which right there kind of has me like, did he though? Because I mean, he probably stopped Surtur, but I don't know if he killed him. But nonetheless, Ross goes on to explain to Jackson their plan for luring out Godzilla, which is by using some big bait, which comes by way of mind-controlling Kumonga, the giant spider, to web down and torture Mothra, in hopes of having Mothra's loud shrieks of pain compel Godzilla to come to the rescue. So as this is happening, Dr. Banner tells Dr. Demonicus, surely there's a less cruel plot to lure Godzilla here. And there's a reason why Banner cares so much for Mothra that we'll find out about as this continues. But Dr. Demonicus goes on to say, as Doc Samson's over here in the corner chilling, but Demonicus goes on to say, you radiate weakness, Banner. All these abominations must be cleansed. My control of Kumonga may not last long, but the cries of Mothra will be too much for Godzilla to resist. They've shown some camaraderie in the past. And that's when Bruce is like, what happens when Godzilla's off the board? What will you do then? And that's where Demonicus tells him, look at me. Look what this war has cost me. My body has been desecrated in this fight. I am hollowed out from within. These kaiju have utterly destroyed me. Be grateful, Banner, that you have no idea what it's like to be a monster. And it's like, man, this guy has no idea how much Banner knows. And we're all finna find out in a minute. Because the next thing we see is that this plan has worked. The cries of Mothra, they've got Godzilla's attention. So Godzilla's inbound now. But the crazy thing is, and this is really just brushed over here, but the crazy part about this is that we get this quick moment where this pilot is shooting at Godzilla just before he's smacked out of the air. And when this happens, they're like, Stearns is down. Repeat, call sign leader is down. Send medics. And right there it's like, oh man, they had Samuel Stearns flying into the danger zone. But now with Godzilla inbound, General Ross tells the pilot, who's also named Samson, to get the civilian reporter to safety just before he jumps out the chopper and tells Banner to meet him in the barn. because inside the two of these guys are getting ready to pilot their mechs. And it's like inside the lights for Ross, his are red, Banner's, his are green. So it's like right away you get the reference. And they're not just any mechs, but rebuilt Mechagodzillas that have been vastly improved by Tony Stark. So now they don't have to remote pilot them. And there's a moment here where it's like rest in peace to Tony Stark because he was crushed by Godzilla. And it's like, man, Tony, you can finally rest now. But as soon as Banner and Ross engage Godzilla, he hits Banner with his atomic breath. And General Ross just uses this opportunity as a distraction so he can send off a missile attack. And with this happening so close to the base, everybody underneath is getting shaken up. And while some of these guys are in fear for their lives, knowing that it's possible they could get trapped down here, Demonicus is just like, perhaps we'll die today, but we're dragging Godzilla to hell with us. And it's like, hey man, if that's how you feel, speak for yourself. But what they end up doing next is using the control device to get Kumanga to leave Mothra alone and go after Godzilla by way of webbing up Godzilla to help General Ross. But this doesn't work out too well because when Ross gets a little too close, Godzilla uses his tail to smack General Ross right into Kumanga, which now has Ross screaming Thunderbolt 1 to Thunderbolt 2, calling out the Banner to get back in the game because he can't do this alone. And just seconds later, Godzilla's able to stand up and just tear Kumanga's webs off of himself, even though they're as strong as steel, only to then quickly disarm Banner, literally, and beat him with his own arm, just before he turns around and hits Ross with the atomic breath. So now the general's just screaming out to Demonicus, saying, Demonicus, do something. This monster is taking out both of our Broncos. You said you had a failsafe. Time to empty the gun, Doc. And this is where things start to get crazy. This is where we get the first big twist. And I guess because it's Demonicus, it's not that much of a big twist if you already know what he's about. But it's here where he tells Ross, yes, it is time for me to do something. It's time for me to pay everyone back, the monsters and the men who have brought me to ruin. I have waited a long time to gather all my enemies in one place. We have been hunting kaiju for a long time. Godzilla can't be controlled, but if I told you how I plan to kill him, you would have never let me. You see, I have been slowly breaking down the bodies of the monsters in my quote-unquote incinerator, but I've also been creating life. It's a new monster, one that will call the kaiju forever, and rather than a constant war for dominance, we will simply have one single dominant ruler. And it's right there where Ross goes off, because he's like, damn it, Demonicus, what the hell kind of claptrap are you spewing? If you hornswoggled me? And I'm just like, hornswoggled? Do people talk like that? Like, I don't know, man, that's borderline, hey, yo. But as Demonicus was explaining all this, both Banner and Ross were able to see what's going on. And that's where Banner's like, this thing isn't a kaiju sarcophagus, it's an egg, and it's hatching. And when this thing just leaps to the surface, we're introduced to it as Ghidorah, the horrible amalgam of monsters. As Demonicus goes on to say, I've spliced the most deadly and robust traits of all the kaiju we've slain, from Fin Fang Foom all the way down. Death will be our salvation. Ghidorah will be a scourge, but he will be the only one. I will have restored balance to the planet. My creation will be more than enough to take down the so-called king of monsters. And now with Ghidorah going straight for Godzilla, in the scuffle they hit Bruce's mech, which is already damaged, so he's not able to eject, leaving him trapped inside with the monsters crushing the hull. And it's right here where Bruce just says, I want to live. So for the first time in years, he lets the Hulk take control. And once again, this is like your 70s talking Hulk. So the guy is quite the chatty patty. He's got a lot to say. Because right out the gate, he's like, Hulk hates robots, Hulk hates bugs, Hulk hates slime monsters, most of all, just before he punches Ghidorah. Then he goes on to say, puny Banner hides with stupid yelling mustache man. Banner works against Hulk with thunderbolts. Hulk hate puny Banner. And at first it sounds like your run-of-the-mill Savage Hulk angry talk. But as it goes on, we're actually going to learn quite a bit from this guy. But before that, Demonicus, he's just surprised that Banner's the Hulk the whole time because they buried someone when they thought they killed the Hulk. So now he wants to know who. But right now Ghidorah is getting ready to kill Ross because this thing is just melting his mech. Just in the nick of time, Hulk's able to come through and knock back Ghidorah and get Ross out of there alive. But while Hulk's doing this, he's laughing at General Ross for trying to use this big machine so he could be strong like Hulk. And at this point, Ross doesn't know what's more humiliating, the Hulk laughing at him or the fact that the Hulk's rescuing him. But then it's here where Ross asks the same question that Demonicus did, because he looks at the Hulk and he says, if you're still alive, then who's in the grave? And this is where the next twist comes around, because the Hulk tells him, Hulk not the monster, Banner is. Banner always blames others for his problems. Bicycle Boy Rick Jones was his patsy. Now Ross, shut up and watch, as Hulk goes on to leap back into the fight. But yeah, before we just brush over that, it's crazy. But Hulk just basically told us that this Bruce Banner framed Rick Jones and used him as a fall guy to fake the Hulk's death. And that's just crazy that he would do the kid like that. But right now, as Ghidorah's going for Godzilla, Ghidorah's winning because Godzilla can't heal as fast as his creature is dissolving him. So Hulk comes in with a punch, only for it to burn his hand. And this is where Demonicus is like, Hulk, you small-minded dolt. You can't fight Ghidorah. He's the perfect creation, a child of my superior intellect and the DNA of hundreds of monsters slain by the Thunderbolts. Can you hear me through what's left of the Mechagodzillas? I want you to know that soon, you'll be as dead as Godzilla and the rest. But it's here where Hulk doubles down on what he said about Banner earlier, because he's like, you all say Hulk is monster, and Hulk's just like, they're all wrong. And that's where Hulk is basically like, maybe you're all wrong about Godzilla too. And with saying this, Hulk basically takes a power line and uses it as a defibrillator to get Godzilla back in the fight. But that's not it, because when he does it, Hulk's like, I saw Banner tickle a heart with electricity once. Now Dr. Hulk saved Godzilla. And right there, just like, oh, look at the Hulk playing doctor with power lines. But that's not it, because just after the Hulk does this, he lets his blood pour into Godzilla's wound. And as soon as that happens, it's like, oh boy. Because right away, Godzilla's eye opens up and it's glowing green. And before you know it, Godzilla hulks out. And it's crazy because now he ain't got the baby arms no more. And you know what I'm talking about, because before he had the extra medium arm length, but not no more. And it's funny because as Godzilla just towers over Ghidorah, this dude is just looking in the camera like, man, can you believe this? And then bam, Godzilla hits him with a right, followed up with the atomic breath. And it's like, okay, we got Scrapzilla out here now. But right after that, when Godzilla really lets loose with the hulked out atomic breath attack, this destroys Ghidorah. And the remnants that are left of this creature, they fall right into the open bunker doors at the Thunderbolt Ranch and right on top of Demonicus, burning him alive. And just after, we see the Hulk head back over to Killmonger and Mothra to help free them, because Hulk knows what it's like, or better yet, Hulk knows the pain of being used by humans. So he frees the both of them so they can go on their way. And when they're out, when it's just Hulk and Godzilla, Hulk is just like, he knows he's the strongest one there is, but he doesn't want to prove that today. And just after that, both of their gamma rages subside, so Hulk turns back into Bruce, and Hulkzilla turns back into Godzilla. But even now, this isn't quite over yet, because the next thing we see is Ross confront Banner about setting up Rick Jones to be the Hulk, which basically led to the Thunderbolts killing Rick, who again was just a kid. And then when Godzilla sees Ross pointing the gun at Bruce, Godzilla gets defensive, because remember, Bruce is the monster, not the Hulk. Or at least that's what Bruce and the Hulk go back and forth on quite a bit on this world. So right here, Bruce just tells Ross, I wouldn't make Godzilla angry. We monsters stick together, Ross. And again, Bruce goes back and forth with the Hulk on who's actually the monster. So he tells Ross here, I don't have any choice about the monster in me, but you can give up yours, Ross, if you're strong enough. And this whole time, Godzilla's looking like, man, give me one good reason to do a spinning tail whip and smack you in the orbit. I dare you. Because Godzilla's got that eye on Ross. He's waiting for it. But with how this ends, Ross doesn't do anything. And the last thing we see just before this closes is what looks to be a piece of Ghidorah on Ross's hand just before this ends. So yeah, I can't wait to see the next Godzilla versus, which is Spider-Man at the end of this month. And in that one, I'm hoping we get symbiote Godzilla, but who knows? But either way, if you enjoyed the video, drop a like and let me know what you think about hulked out Godzilla. And so now real quick, I want to give a special shout out to all the patrons. Thank you guys for all of your support. And for anyone who's new here who wants more information on how to support the channel, I got a link below where you can go to patreon.com/dopespill. But that'll do it for this one, guys. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below, and we'll do it again on the next one. Alright, later.